Hello, friends. Welcome to Science Stories with Mrs. C. In a lot of your lessons, you've been learning about living and non living things. Today, I'm going to read a really exciting book titled Animal Kingdom. This book is about many living things that can be found in our animal kingdom. Before we begin, it's important to be familiar with vocabulary words you might hear as I read. Let's look at some of the vocabulary words you might not yet be familiar with. Here's our list of 6 vocabulary words we're going to review. This word is invertebrates. Invertebrates are animals without backbones. Our next word is vertebrates. Very similar, but it's missing that first in part, right? So vertebrates are animals with backbones. They do have backbones. Our next vocabulary word is organisms. Organisms are plants, animals, and life forms. Classify means to arrange in classes or groups. Regulate means to control or maintain. And continents are the world's main land masses. Now, before we start reading, let me show you some pictures that will help you better understand the vocabulary words we just heard. Invertebrates. Remember, these are animals without backbones. Here's my little picture of a backbone with an X because invertebrates do not have backbones. Some examples of invertebrates are jellyfish, starfish, snails, spiders. None of these animals have a backbone. Our next word was vertebrates. These animals do have a backbone. You can see here's the backbone and that human body. And here are the 5 groups of vertebrates: fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. All of these living organisms have backbones. That brings us to our next word, organisms. Organisms are plants, animals, and life forms. Usually, when we're thinking of organisms, we're thinking of the animals that live on Earth, like pandas, giraffes, flamingos, maybe the bugs that live on Earth, like this beautiful butterfly. There are also unicellular or one-celled organisms. So those are things down here like bacteria, amoeba. These things are organisms as well. Our next word was classify. To classify means to arrange in classes or groups, usually based on some characteristics or things they have in common. Regulate means to control or maintain. In our story, we're going to read about animals and how they regulate their body temperature. So here's a little chart that shows a human with the normal body temperature. When it gets hot outside and it's very sunny, you start to sweat. When you start to sweat and get rid of some of that heat or enter a nice cool place like your home with air conditioning, then you go back to normal body temperature. So this is an example of regulating or controlling or maintaining your body temperature. And our last vocabulary word was continents. So those are the world's main land masses. There are 7. Here's where we live in this orange continent. We live right here in North America, right down in this little part sticking out, Florida, right? So the continent we live on is North America. Below us, we have South America. Really far south, we have Antarctica. We also have Europe in red, Africa here shown in green, Asia, and Australia. So these are the world's main land masses. They're separated into 7 different continents. All right, so now that you're familiar with some of those words you're going to hear, I'll begin reading our story. Now, this story is very long, so I'm not going to read it all. But I'll tell you the title and the author in case you would like to check this book out from your local library and finish it at home. Animal Kingdom, The World in Infographics. That's our title or name of the book. It was written by John Richards. he's the author, and Ed Simpkins, he helped out as well. So both of these authors, they wrote all of the words that you're going to see, and they created all of the infographics or pictures you're going to see. Let's begin reading. This is our table of contents, so it will show us what we're going to find in this book. It begins with what is an animal. So let's go ahead and start reading. Animals are living organisms that feed on other organisms and react to the world using their senses. Found all over the world, they range in size from tiny microscopic creatures to the enormous blue whale. It says an adult blue whale can eat about 3.9 tons of krill in a single day. That is a ton. Here we have invertebrates, animals without backbones. Invertebrates actually make up 95 to 99% of the Earth's animal species. So that means there are a lot more animals without backbones than there are animals with backbones. Remember, those are the vertebrates, animals with backbones. Classifying animals. There's that word, classify. Scientists divide living things into groups that share the same characteristics. These groups are further divided into subgroups, the smallest being the individual species. So here are some of the animal kingdoms. We have the animal kingdom, plant kingdom, fungi kingdom, and many more. How many animal species are there? Scientists have described more than 1.5 million animal species, including 400,000 species of beetles, 160,000 species of moth and butterfly, 32,000 species of fish. It's still estimated that there are around 9 to 10 more million animal species. Eating and energy. The sun is the source of most of the energy used on our planet. Plants convert this energy into substances that living things can use to produce energy to survive and grow. So here's a great white shark. It says great white sharks can detect a drop of blood in 26 gallons of water. Sperm whales will dive to depths of around 3,281 feet, holding their breath for up to 90 minutes while they're hunting for fish and squid. That is a super, super long time. Some snakes use special heat-sensitive pits to hunt for prey. These pits can detect temperature variations in their surroundings of just 0.36 degrees Fahrenheit. So that means if something's just a tiny bit warmer, just a teensy tiny bit warmer, they can sense that living organism. Mammals. Mammals can regulate their body heat. They have bodies that are covered with hair, and they feed their young on milk. Most of them give birth to live offspring. Offspring are the babies. The offspring of most mammals develop inside the body of the mother. This time is called the gestation period and varies from species to species. So a blue whale will carry her baby inside of her for about 11 months. Humans carry their babies inside of them for about 9 months. The golden hamster only needs to carry its babies inside for 2 weeks, and the African elephant carries its baby inside for 22 months. That's almost 2 years. The largest newborn mammal belongs to the blue whale, and it weighs about 3 tons at birth. Here are some of the smallest and largest mammals. Kitty's hog-nosed bat. This is its actual size. Look, it's just a little bit bigger than my finger. A bat. It is only about 1 to 1.5 inches. And the blue whale is the largest mammal. It can be 66 to 98 feet long. So that's about the same length as these two double-decker buses. That's crazy. It also says mammals usually have bigger brains than other animals of the same size. So if there was a fish that was as large as a human, its brain would most likely be much smaller because mammals usually have bigger brains. Reptiles. There are more than 9,400 species of reptile, and they live on every continent except for Antarctica. It's just too cold. While most have 4 legs, some, including snakes, have no legs and slither over the ground. So remember, we classify by those characteristics. Here are some reptile characteristics that most reptiles share. They have scales covering their bodies. They have backbones. Here's a picture of that backbone and this alligator or crocodile. They breathe air using lungs. Most lay eggs with leathery shells, and almost all of them are cold-blooded. Because reptiles do not need energy to keep their body temperature constant, they only need to eat about 2 to 3% of the amount mammals and birds of similar sizes eat. That's why sometimes you hear about snakes not eating for like 6 months at a time. They'll eat one big meal and then they'll be good to go. Amphibians. There are about 6,500 species of amphibians found in the world. These animals cannot control their own body heat and are known as cold-blooded. They rely on the sun to warm them up. Amphibians spend their lives both in water and on dry land. And again, they're found on every continent except Antarctica as well. It's just too cold for most animals in Antarctica. Here is the smallest frog in the world. That is its actual size. It's smaller than my fingernail. It's found in Papua New Guinea, and it measures slightly more than just a quarter of an inch when it is fully grown. Here's the largest amphibian. Japanese salamanders are some of the biggest amphibians in the world. So this is a human. This is the Japanese salamander. They can grow to a length of 5 feet and weigh up to 55 pounds. The biggest amphibians are Chinese salamanders, which can reach 6 feet long. Oh, so Japanese salamanders are some of the biggest, but the Chinese salamanders are actually even bigger. They can be 6 feet long. Birds. There are more than 9,500 species of bird, and they all have wings, lay eggs, and have bodies that are covered with feathers. They either live in huge flocks or as solitary hunters, that means by themselves, with razor-sharp beaks and claws. It says the kiwi lays the largest eggs relative to the size of its body. Look how big that egg is inside of it. One female weighing 3.7 pounds laid an egg weighing 14 ounces. That's almost a whole pound. So it was huge. Here's the smallest egg. The smallest bird egg was laid by a German crested canary. It measured slightly more than a quarter of an inch long and weighed less than 0.001 ounces. It was so tiny. Fish. There are more than 30,000 species of fish living in the salty waters of the seas and oceans and the fresh water of rivers and lakes. Here are some fish characteristics that help sort fish into their classification. They live in water. Almost all fish are cold-blooded. They breathe using gills. Most of them have scales. They have a backbone, so they're vertebrates as well. And they swim using their fins. The biggest fish is the whale shark. And the largest measured whale shark ever was 41.5 feet long. That's huge. Bugs. Insects and arachnids are part of a group of animals called arthropods. These creatures are invertebrates, no backbones, and are covered in hard outer skeletons called exoskeletons. So for us, we have bones on the inside, but their hard exoskeleton is actually on the outside of their bodies. Insects and arachnids look similar, but there are key differences between these two animal classes. Insects have 3 body parts. They have the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. Arachnids have just 2 body parts, and they have 8 legs instead of 6 like the insects have. Scientists have found as many as 25,000 species of insects living in the 23 square miles in the San Lorenzo forest in Panama. That area is smaller than just Manhattan, which is a city in New York. So, just in that tiny area, they found as many as 25,000 species of insects. That is a lot. This is a termite mound. Look at this. It's right next to a giraffe and a human. The largest termite mound discovered measured 42 feet tall. Look how tall that is. That is crazy. All right, so as you can see, there are still some pages left. There's a page all about hard shells, soft bodies, movers and shakers, endangered and extinct animals, and a glossary with more of those vocabulary words and definitions. So if you would like to check this book out from your local library and continue reading, it is titled Animal Kingdom, the World in Infographics, and it was written by John Richards and Ed Simpkins, as well as illustrated by those same authors as well. So I would recommend checking this out because I don't have time today to read every single fact. Even on the pages I read to you guys, there were so many other facts that I couldn't get to in one video. So I would recommend checking this book out from your library and seeing if you can learn some even more interesting facts about the animals of our world. All right, that's it for me. I'm Mrs. C. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.